have a Discord server. Link in the description. Also subscribe. Okay, enjoy.
Hey, you ever heard of a little game called TF2? Duh. It's not little at all. It's a pretty big game, actually, boasting over 90,000 daily players. Now, this is nothing new for TF2. It's had an active community since its release way back in 2007, back when the internet was just rocks and sticks or something like that. And although it doesn't receive updates anymore, the community just refuses to die, with content creators, SFM animators and artists, server hosts, news channels, podcasts, competitive tournaments, traders. I think you get the idea. But TF2 isn't just impactful on its own community, it's left a mark on the internet as a whole. If you were to find a random person on the internet and ask if they recognize any of these mercs, chances are they'll have at least seen them once. After all, they populate meme culture, fan art, SFMs, and of course the official trailers. But you read the title, or unless you didn't, but I think you did, you little goober. I said it impacted society, not just the internet. Obviously, we're not going to be seeing Scout TF2 as the president of the world. That would be pretty nifty though. But what TF2 really hit hard was the animation community. After TF2's official trailers became popular, Valve publicly released the software they used, Source Filmmaker, for the community to utilize. This was huge, since never before was such a high-quality, powerful software released to the public for the purpose of animation. Well, at least for free. But here's a fun fact, SFM wasn't made for consumer use. It existed since 2005, and was originally used for the Day of Defeat trailer, if anyone ever plays that. However, the Meet the Team trailers were the first time SFM was used to its full potential. The community now had a tool to make short films of their own, and an interest in SFM, and subsequently Team Fortress 2, grew as a result. You see, kiddos, SFM gives you access to every single asset, or at least most of them, in Team Fortress 2, as well as other Source games like Portal and Half-Life. And, as it happens, this is all done on Source, the very engine that these games run on. It's a free tool that anyone can pick up, and most computers can run it. The only real price you have to pay is the time you put into learning it, and maybe a little bit of your sanity. And look at how impactful it is. There are creators like Winglet, Mittens, and Kostamoinen that continue to pump out high-quality content through the use of SFM. I expect to see many big animators in the future have their humble beginnings starting with the SFM software. And with such a useful tool, the internet did what it does best and used it for memes. Since Valve allows the community to use their characters and assets for free, so long as they're not for commercial use, people slap the two together and use these guys for funny ha-has on the internet. You see them everywhere, Reddit, Twitter, heck, even Instagram. Once, a friend of mine that had never even heard of TF2, to my knowledge at least, sent me a meme with a TF2 character in it. And of course, this meme had absolutely nothing to do with TF2, but that's just what the characters have become. Mascots that can be used for basically anything. And by anything, I really do mean anything. Anything. Yeah, unfortunately for TF2, it exists. And if something exists, we all know the rule. Well, you know, let's move on. But it's not just the characters. The game itself was the very first of its kind. Team Fortress 2 was so groundbreaking that it created an entire subgenre of video games, hero shooters. Distinguished titles such as Overwatch, Paladins, and even Rainbow Six are all big names that wouldn't exist, at least in their current state, if Team Fortress 2 hadn't built the framework for their success. And while technically the first hero shooter was Team Fortress Classic, Team Fortress 2 is the vanguard of the subgenre. Before Team Fortress 2, games focused on choosing your weapons for customization rather than choosing characters. And while yes, TF2 offers a plethora of weapons you can employ to personalize your experience, it's the classes that ultimately choose your playstyle. This was very unorthodox in 2007. The spearheads of the FPS genre were games like Halo and Call of Duty, where your customization was limited to the weapons you use, and maybe a few perks and power-ups.
And yeah, I hear ya. Maybe, you could play as an elite in Halo Reach, but you see, my children, that didn't really change anything about the game. It was just like a skin. It was a little disappointing. I mean, you got like a few changes, but I'm getting off topic. There's more. I think it's about time I address the elephant in the room. Take a look at these 4 clips, all from different games. Do you see it now? Never before had the world seen a game that combines aspects from something as serious as shooters with something as silly as cartoons. Nowadays, that's no big deal, but back then it was huge, since Halo and Call of Duty were the popular games at the time. These graphics are what set the stage for games like Overwatch, Splatoon, and Valorant to shine. It's not just for spectacle either. This art style has a practical use as well. These types of graphics are the perfect balance of performance and looks.
It embraces the fact that it can be ultra realistic and goes for a more simple, cartoonish look. That's what the original purpose of these simple graphics were, but it's evolved into so much more. Although powerful hardware is now much more widespread, modern games have taken on this style and built upon it. They made it something original and new. Now take a look at these 4 clips. Aside from TF2, all of these games are relatively new. The oldest game shown here was released in 2016, which now that's like 5 years ago. I mean, that's kind of crazy. It should now be a little more clear on just how impactful Team Fortress 2 is. There's so much more too. Team Fortress 2 has tons of unique mechanics that other games have taken inspiration from. I'm not going to go too in depth since that's a really deep rabbit hole, but my favorite example of this is rocket jumping. In-game, rocket jumping is a mechanic that you can use to propel yourself at high speeds using your own explosives. While this was a completely unintentional mechanic, Valve embraced it with weapons like the rocket jumper. Before Team Fortress 2, no games had any sort of mechanic like this. Now, look at Overwatch, for example. Specifically, Junkrat's ability to mine jump. Seem familiar? That's just the tip of the iceberg, and frankly, I could make a whole documentary about this, but I won't. I'll leave that to someone else. I'd also like to address how the game has impacted me personally, and maybe some of you can relate. I picked up Team Fortress 2 when I was in the 4th grade, which would be 2013, and played it for hours on end. I remember I would always get on a Minecraft trade server and annoy everyone there, but it's not like people on trade servers trade anyway. That's like the one thing that has not changed over the years. I also played a lot of casual and would call my friend Alex over the phone and we'd have some grand old times. You see, I was a scout main back then, but I was not any good at him. I played every day until middle school came around, and then I didn't touch the game again, not until the 8th grade. And then I, along with my new middle school friends, installed the game again and would play 24/7. I remember I'd buy everyone cosmetics for their favorite classes and we'd make plans for our next play session. I know one time we actually printed out a picture of Turbine, like the map, and made overcomplicated plans on how we would wipe out the enemy team in a 6v6. I think the most unrealistic part of that plan was expecting strategy to be used on Turbine. Wow, that is a really funny joke. Calorkai. At that point, I wanted to become a good spy main and would spend all my time practicing trick stabs and watching YouTube tutorials. And that takes us to high school, where I began actively trading. And honestly, I made a lot of really stupid trades and lost a ton of money, but I also got really lucky with buying and selling spelled Australiums, so I pretty much broke even, with a tiny amount of profit. After all that, I figured I'd put down trading and worked on my skills as a spy main. I kept working at it and made some good progress. I started hitting trick stabs semi-consistently, and I could even hit ambassador shots once in a blue moon. Anyway, I kinda drifted away from TF2 for a good while until the end of 2020, where quarantine took me back to the good old Fortress. I decided to switch to maining Sniper after watching TF2'ers like Fat Magic and Jaybird. I started making TF2 videos for YouTube, and now here we are. If I had never been introduced to Team Fortress 2, I probably wouldn't have started a YouTube channel in the first place. I've made plenty of friends through TF2 over the years, and I honestly believe that it's heavily impacted who I am today. Even though the direct impacts may not be so obvious, I truly believe that me picking up the game caused a butterfly effect of sorts that drastically changed who I am today. That sort of makes me wonder who I would be if I never heard of TF2, but that's for me to speculate on my own time. I'd also like to take a moment to thank everyone for helping me reach 300 subscribers. I mean, it's pretty nutty how I hit 200 subscribers like a month ago, and now I'm already at 300. So, thanks for that. Also, if you haven't subscribed already, do consider it. But that'll do it for today, my boys, so I'll be seeing you all around.